Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be hailing from. This is Live Ops, a occasional stream of the IT Guy Show. I'm your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and resident lab monkey today. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and recent job descriptions changes. Excuse me. Made me want to get back into doing a few of these. They're fun, they're low key, and we get to make you get to watch me make fun of myself a little bit. So thank you for tuning in. So today, for those of you that don't know, I've been a Red Hatter. I've worked at TuxCare. I've worked at GitLab. Most recently, I've been on contract to Rocky Linux, or to the company behind Rocky Linux, I should say. Better known as CIQ. CIQ is the founding corporate sponsor for Rocky Linux. This isn't a sales pitch. Goodness. We're off to a great start. Minute and a half in, host dies of lung failure. We're off to a great start. So anyway, CIQ uses Rocky Linux as the underlying Linux operating system for a lot of their products. And so I have been acting as sort of a developer advocate, which is kind of funny in and of itself, because I said a lot of times on this show and previous shows that I'm not a developer. I don't write code for a living, but I'm a developer advocate. I'm trying to get operations advocate to catch on. But basically, what I'm part of the responsibility of a DevRel, of a developer advocate, used to call them technology evangelists, things like that. Part of my responsibilities is to make sure that it's easy for prospective and new customers to be able to get in and use our products easily. And so in a lot of situations, you'll see getting started guides like this one, where you go out to a website, and here's all the system requirements. Here's where to get the software. Of course, this is out on docs.ciq.com. This is for RLC Rocky Linux from CIQ version 9. We're up to 9.8, and I'm looking specifically. We'll be talking about specifically the installation portion, but if you go out to just the 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 base of the RLC Pro Getting Started guide. In fact, I can even docs.ciq.com. I can even back up a little bit further. You can see that we're still working on a lot of these, but if you look, you can sort by product type. CIQ is also known for HPC, high performance computing. So think scientific research, medical laboratories, that kind of thing. Weather reporting require an HPC cluster. Not to be confused with like a Kubernetes cluster or virtualization cluster. HPC is a little bit different. And lately, CIQ, like everyone else, has been involved in AI as well. So you can see that we've got a bunch of different products. And so one of the things that I'm really interested in is, what is the onboarding experience for one of our customers? And as a technologist who likes to try out new software, this is something that I do quite often. Is you go out to the doc site and, okay, so I want to run Rocky Linux from CIQ. Cool. There's a getting started guide. That's what we were looking at a minute ago. It gives you some prereqs. We'll talk about Portal. We'll talk about Depot. We'll kind of step through this a little bit. But what I want to focus on here is the installation piece. And so I've skimmed this, reading it from a, does this make sense? Does this work, from that kind of perspective? But I haven't actually gone through this step by step. So I figured that'd be kind of a fun exercise. So if you're interested in Rocky Linux or CIQ, you can use this as kind of a laid back, ridiculous introduction to some of our products. If you're curious about what a DevRel does, this is one of the things that I do, that I've started to do for CIQ's suite of tools. In fact, after Southeast Linux Fest here in a couple of weeks, I want to make one of these videos for Ascender, which is built off of the old Ansible AWX open source project. So I don't know if you noticed, but on the docs page, there was a Ascender getting started guide. I want to walk through that. My buddy Howard swears by it. He works a lot on He works a lot with the sender and with our customers, that kind of thing, at CIQ. So that said, let's kind of start working our way through the guide here. So installation, we've got QCOW2 files. Problem is, I'm running Proxmox. For now, I have thoughts on that. We'll talk about that another day. You'll notice that these live ops are a lot of me rambling and thinking out loud, and people seem to enjoy them for some reason. So we'll dive in. So minimum requirements: 64-bit ARM or x86, 4 gigs of RAM, 25 gigs of disk space. Whew, almost got yanked off the air for that one. Network connectivity, UEFI or BIOS compatible system. Okay, so let's start with that then, shall we? System requirements, easy enough. All right, so we've got Coulson is my jump server. You all know that I love Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, and so a lot of my pet systems that I don't spin up and destroy all the time, are named after Marvel characters. I ran out of the well-known AIs for Tony Stark, because I've got Veronica around here. I've got Jarvis is currently disassembled because I don't currently have a Linux system, but I want to bring Jarvis back. But then I've got like my website, I've got Foundry, Virtual Tabletop, I've got Valheim and Minecraft, just a few different things. I'm running OpenSense. So for those of you that follow the big show, the IT Guy show, know that I've got a Dell PowerEdge R720 running in a co-located data center, and so I've got that's what we're connected into right now. And excuse me, I'm on the struggle bus today. So I've got OpenSense sitting in front of all of this. I've got some templates here for different enterprise Linux builds. And so for those of you like me who are getting older and can't see as well, I'll bump up the zoom on that. Proxmox didn't really like that, but hey, we'll deal with it. Okay, so we kind of started over here with our system requirements. So let's start there. And I've got about an hour and a half before my next meeting. So let's have a little fun here. I'm going to create a virtual machine. It's going to be on the IT Guy node. Let's see, VM ID. This is going to be a dev system that I'm going to blow away later. So I'll put it in the 300 range. I think I've got a RHEL 9 box sitting there for some reason. Don't remember what I was doing with it, but let's do let's do IT Guy dev RLC 01 resource pool. All that looks good. Okay, so I've cheated here, and already grabbed the ISO because we'll cover that here in a minute. And as you can see, I deal with a lot of different systems. So I went ahead and got the RLC Pro 9 minimal ISO. I'll show you where I got the ISO from here in a minute because we're doing this live. So no one wants to sit and watch. No one wants to sit and watch installers. No one wants to sit here and watch the installer run. So we'll keep the system basically the same here. But I will add the QEMU agent so we get a little bit more in terms of statistics. All right, so disks, they called for a minimum, the documentation calls for a minimum of 25 gigs because this is tech and things should be divisible by 8. My standard disk for the OS is 32 gigs. Usually if it's going to have a very large data store to it, I do one of two things. I add a completely separate second data disk, and that could be 100 gig, 200 gig, whatever. Or kind of jerry-rig my Proxmox machine to have NFS. So I've actually got a pretty large NFS share hosted on my Proxmox machine, shared out to my virtual machines. Feel free to put in the comments how smart or dumb that idea is. But for now, we're just going to go with my standard 32 gig operating system disk CPU. One is never enough. We'll go with 2. This will be a dev machine. Probably won't put any workloads on it today. So we'll give it 2 sockets. Let's see. Let's give it. Let's see. So 4096 meg. is about 4 gigs of RAM, which is kind of standard for a lot of these virtual machines. Two CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM is usually enough to run a couple of containers and the operating system. We'll just kind of keep all the defaults on. Actually, I think we'll double check, but I think my internet-facing connection is VMBR1. We'll double check with a running system, but we'll go with that for now, and we'll go ahead and create all that. While that's checking, let's come over here to my game server. Let's check hardware, network, VMBR1. How about that? I actually architected a system that I know how to use it with. And if you're watching live, really appreciate you tuning in. These are always a lot of fun. Okay, so I was correct about the network interface. So let's go over to summary. Looks like everything's set up. Go to our console. We'll go to start. Huzzah! We started a virtual machine. All right, so the usual enterprise Linux installation screen. Let's do install Rocky Linux 9 Pro from CIQ. Sometimes takes a minute for the graphical interface to come up, especially on my resource-starved R720. I just had an interview with Josh from Keep It Techie, and we talked about 45 Home Lab. They do some custom builds for at-home storage. Really thinking about getting one, bringing it here into the apartment, and letting this R720 rest in peace. All right, 12 minutes in. We're doing great. Today's episode is brought to you by Circle, because my Circle cartridge is empty right at the beginning of the show. Go figure. If you've ever met me in person, I always have this bottle with me. When you drink about a gallon of fluids a day, you get kind of bored with just basic water. So these Circle cartridges are great, and that's why I'm in product marketing. I can find a reason to talk about anything. So if you're not a Circle user, let me know. I might have a referral code. Hey, you got to do something while you're waiting on the dadgum thing to load. There we go. Let's see. I just grape is empty, and then I've got green apple here, so that's always fun. Green apple is probably one of my favorites. All right, so we definitely want to speak and type English, so we're going to go ahead and click continue. All right. You know what? The last couple of major versions of Enterprise Linux, from Fedora all the way down to Rocky Linux, has been fantastic. The newer, cleaner menu is just so much easier. Okay, so keyboard, language support, date and time. That should be fine. We'll go ahead and leave root disabled these days. All right, so I always create the Ansible user because, well, I'll tell you why here in a minute. I'm going to put in my password, but typing and talking is hard. And just to make sure here, we want this to, all my Ansible users are UID and GID 1000, members of the wheel group. They are an administrator. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. I know, for years, it's like running without a root account. That was changed, what, RHEL 9, I think? I forget what Fedora version that would have been. All right, so installation source is going to be local media, software selection, minimal install. I had a former manager who would do server with GUI. Don't ever do server with GUI. It's a long time joke of mine. Let's go ahead and do a custom configuration, because I think by default it creates a home directory, which I don't really want to do on these builds. Okay, so it didn't. So pretty much everything got dropped into our root partition. Awesome. And we'll go ahead with XFS. No problems there. Yes, destroy that empty disk. Kdump. If you're not pulling kernel dumps, I just disable it. One day that may bite me in the rear, but I mean, for over a decade, it hasn't. All right, so ITT Jev RLC01. Boom. All right, so we're on the 192 network. That's where we want to be. Good, good. We won't do anything with security profiles, although at some point I want to do a video on what this is, because this is really cool and really helpful that it's built in, but not today. Okay, so everything's good here. So I mentioned Ansible. So let me go ahead and click that install here. So my hope is that all of these systems here will eventually utilize the Ansible service account. It'll have the same SSH key, the same password, the same UID, GID. That'll just make it easier, because one of my projects here, as I'm trying to pull virtual machines off of my Proxmox box and bring them in house, my hope is that when I'm ready to buy some kind of home lab server that is apartment friendly, my hope is to never log into these machines. That is, as someone who has long been a fan of infrastructure as code and someone who's long wanted to do like GitOps, Git based IT operations. Um, I really don't want to have to log into these systems. I spent years as a systems administrator. I don't want to do that as a day job anymore. Still love being a sysadmin, still love building things, but nowadays I only build things for specific reasons, like being able to play Valheim or Minecraft or Foundry with my Dungeons and Dragons friends, or in this case, build a product demo. Right? um, so a lot of these systems are very, very short-lived. Like I don't even remember what this dev box is. Maybe I'll check later after the stream's over. But or like this one where I'm just walking through the installation instructions. So eventually, the hope is that Ansible account will allow me to unilaterally manage all of these virtual machines, to spin up demo boxes, tear them down, and to do that, I'm going to lean on Ascender. So here in a couple of weeks, once I get back from an upcoming conference, I'm hoping to go through the Ascender guide and do that getting started bit. Okay, so the other thing I mentioned was I cheated and I went ahead and downloaded the RLC Pro 9 ISO early, because no one wants to sit here and watch bits and bytes download off the interwebs. But I did that not out of the docs page, but out of the portal page, which we'll come back to here, and we'll come back to the docs page here in a minute. So Portal is awesome. This was one of my first projects for my contract here at CIQ. I got to start promoting this. I created a video, a blog, and anyway, and that's neither here nor there. What's really nice about Portal is it is quickly becoming the one-stop shop for everything CIQ. So if you have a relationship with CIQ or you're looking to start one, this is the place where you want to go. Now you notice there's a dashboard. We have what we affectionately call as stacks. So like if you're an HPC, you can go into that stack, and we've got some of our other tools like I mentioned Ascender and RLC Pro, but we also have tools like Fuzzball and Werewolf that CIQ uses to do high performance computing. Or if you're interested in AI/ML, we've got a stack for that. And we'll talk about some of the different variants here in a minute. I will keep an eye on our install though, so it's configuring the kernel. It's moving along pretty quickly. You'll be able to create tickets. I think the docs site is eventually instead of a link will be part of this new build, because now you can just click it and it'll take you back to the docs site where we were at earlier. CIQ Portal is really, really nice, and it's even easier to get started. So there's a dashboard, there's a support section, but there's also the catalog where you can go through and line by line, look at our products. I want a Linux operating system. So I've mentioned that RLC stands for Rocky Linux from CIQ. What does that look like? All right, ready? Here we go. We're going to start at the top of the stream and work our way down. So at the very, very top, you have Linus Torvalds GitHub repository for the Linux kernel. Twice a year, the Fedora project pulls that kernel and creates the newest version of Fedora Linux, which I think right now is on 44. I should know. Colson is running it. In fact, why don't we check real quick? Let's see. Okay. So cat etsy release. Yep. Fedora Linux 44. Okay, cool. Um, I love it when I say things correctly. Um, so you go from the upstream Linux kernel to Fedora twice a year to CentOS Stream once every 3 years. CentOS Stream will basically take a snapshot of Fedora, and that will become the new major version of CentOS Stream. CentOS Stream is not a RHEL beta; it is an operating system all on its own. It's a fantastic system. I use it from time to time, and Strawberry Kitten says, "Yo, dog." uh, Thank you for joining me. This is just a little bit of fun we're having today, setting up new products. So uh, anyway, so CentOS Stream, and then every 3 years, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, like they did about a year and a half ago, will pull CentOS Stream. We'll take a snapshot basically and create the next major version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So you've got upstream, Fedora Stream, CentOS Stream. Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and then you have Rocky Linux. Rocky Linux is a downstream rebuild of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And why that's important is because Rocky Linux more or less is ABI compatible with Red Hat Enterprise Linux because it is a rebuild. There's some packages that are changed. There's some configurations that are changed, logos, branding, some minor things like that. And then RLC Pro is pulled from Rocky Linux. I mentioned CIQ is the founding corporate sponsor for Rocky Linux. And so what that looks like is that in exchange for engineering resources, staff, infrastructure, hardware, things like that, CIQ also has agreed to use Rocky Linux as its base for a lot of our Linux-based products. That's where RLC Pro comes in. Now you'll notice there's a few options under Linux OS, not just RLC Pro. That's the one we're talking about. That's the professional version. The most direct correlation that I can paint for you is the relationship between Canonical and Ubuntu and Ubuntu Pro. Similar style between the two. Red Hat and Fedora, Red Hat and CentOS, a little bit different, but probably the most direct analogy that I can make is RLC Pro and Rocky Linux and CIQ and the Rocky Linux Enterprise Support Foundation, something like that, RESF. The closest analogy is Canonical to Ubuntu and Ubuntu Community to Ubuntu Pro. So that's kind of RLC Pro. In RLC Pro, there's kind of two divergent paths here. Towards the hobbyist community side is RLC Plus. What's really cool about RLC Plus is something I'm actually thinking about using in my home lab is not only do you have your architecture, but here's what's really cool. There's variants of RLC Plus with NVIDIA or AMD drivers and toolkits already installed. It's so great. You don't have to go in and install NVIDIA drivers. You don't have to configure anything. They're just there. They're just ready to go. So what I'm thinking is my RLC or my 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 PowerEdge, my R720, has an old NVIDIA graphics card in it that is blacklisted for Proxmox, but presented to my Plex virtual machine for transcoding. So I may, instead of just running community Rocky Linux, I may actually convert that over to RLC Plus, so I can take advantage of the built-in NVIDIA drivers. That way I don't have to manage that separately. But there's also options for AMD, or there's just straight RLC Plus. What's really nice is this is akin to a lot of products have a developer license. Problem is that usually requires an actual license. It's just a free license. And we do have that for RLC Pro at CIQ. But what's really nice is RLC Plus has been, and I can't say forever because nothing lasts forever, but until the program changes drastically, RLC Plus will be built for the community, for developers, for individuals for free. And so you've got RLC Pro, and then to the left, you've got RLC Plus, and then to the right, you've got RLC Pro AI and RLC Pro Hardened. What those are variants of RLC Pro that are purpose built for specific tasks. Like RLC Pro Hardened here is built if you need FIPS compliance. So if you're working with government or defense or um, those are the FIPS is the main thing now, but we're trying to add others to it. That when you install RLC Pro Hardened, you don't have to go in and after the fact configure a lot of those requirements. There's basically a checklist for whether or not your system is FIPS compliant. And instead of having to go through that checklist, the engineers at CIQ have already done that to Rocky Linux via RLC Pro Hardened. And go figure, everyone has an RLC Pro or everyone has an AI product nowadays. Rocky Linux or CIQ with Rocky Linux is no different. RLC Pro AI takes the upstream kernel, not the RHEL kernel, but the upstream kernel, and builds it specifically with AI workloads in mind. On top of that, the RLC Pro AI image already has NVIDIA or AMD um, drivers and toolkits pre-installed, depending on what variant you pick. Some of the Python libraries, some of the underlying packages and frameworks needed to run AI workloads, whether it's for training or running models, all that's already built into RLC Pro AI. So it's kind of a shortcut. We'll talk about Ascender Pro another day. Werewolf and Fuzzball. Maybe I'll have somebody on the podcast to talk about those. Or if you're still running CentOS, the CIQ bridge would be of interest. CentOS Linux 7 specifically, you might find that of interest, but kind of outside the scope for today's talk. So our install is complete. So I'm going to go ahead and start the rebuild or the reboot there. So while that's rebooting, so I mentioned all that to say that I got the ISO through CIQ portal. So what I'm going to do is just create an absolutely free customer account here. So I'm going to what's one I haven't used yet. I usually delete this one, so let's give it a shot. Sorry, I want to create an account. Okay, not Okta. I love how helpful Okta tries to be, or Bitwarden tries to be, even when you tell it no. All right, so I got that out of my email. So I am Eric, the IT guy. Sure, I agree. They could be asking for my soul in here, and I'd never know. So if this were an organization level account, I could go ahead and create that org and start setting up individual users, but I can create one later. So I'm not going to do that right now. Now we're logged in. So ETLIG, I love it. So if I go under my products, I don't have any products, but I can go to the catalog. I can go to RLC Pro. Got an hour until my meeting. We're doing good. So now I can choose LTS, I can choose a specific version, or I can just grab the latest. So 8.10, that's going to be the latest for a few more years. That's the last minor release for the 8.x series. Notice at the time of recording, 9.8 is out, but the ISOs aren't yet. But I think 9.8 is available on clouds and is Bootsy images, but the ISOs are still forthcoming. But since I was talking about ISOs, that's what we're going to use today. So now I can actually start to deploy this. But notice that there's not a download option, but instead, if I click on deploy, it'll give me this handy dandy ability to choose. Do I want to start a trial, or do I want to start a 25 node license key for developers? Let's go ahead and do that. I've read and agree, accept. Now this account will get deleted later, so don't try and steal my my key. But so it's doing some stuff in the background, creating basically my customer relationship with CIQ. That I'm just a developer. So now I've got the ISO that I can download. You can use the checksum. just to make sure that the ISO that you asked for is actually from where you thought it would be from. Actually going to go ahead and cancel that download. Don't need to eat up my bandwidth because I already downloaded it. Excuse me. Um, but this block right here is going to be important. So I'm actually going to copy that out into a text file that I've got down here because we'll need it in a little bit. I'll come back to that and explain why that's important. Okay, so got the little CIQ and ASCII art. That's always awesome. So I almost panicked and went, what's my login? All right, so I'm going to log into my Ansible account here. All right, so I know that's super, super small for you to see. So I'm going to see if I can SSH, and I know you can't see what I'm doing. Just a second. ITG dev RLC01. Okay, cool. I can log in a terminal where you can see it, and I will share my screen. Just a second here. Typing a password and talking is hard. Okay, so let me trade this out here. And I'm going to hide this other window. Okay. One of these days, I'll be rich and famous, and I'll have a producer to manage all this. So, a few things that I always do on a new system here. Sudo. I always pronounce the sudo show wrong, but sudo show didn't sound right. If you're new to my channel, I was the founding host and one of the founding hosts and of the Sudo Show podcast. Used to be part of Destination Linux Network. So I want to use a real text editor, and judge me if you want. It's a lab system. It's going away. But for the sake of argument here, I'm actually going to uncomment the no password line and comment out. So now when I use sudo, it won't ask me for a password. Again, the system's not going to live long, so judge me all you want. So one thing I always do, and especially since we're running 9.7, and I know for a fact 9.8 is out, we're going to go ahead and do a clean all, because I'm paranoid as a systems administrator and lazy, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a clean all. So all the metadata and all the caches are cleared if they're not already. And then I'm going to do a DNF update tech Y, so it doesn't ask me if I actually want to update. And then I'm going to do a DNF install tech Y. I like Vim enhanced. We might want get. We might want the cockpit web. Excuse me, sorry. Cockpit web console. Oh gosh, what else might we want here? Bash completion, because I'm not sure if it's in the default image or if that's just something I like. That way you had tab complete. And then something I always run is DNF auto remove to clear up any orphan packages or any out of date packages. We're going to let that run. So we'll talk about depot here next. Oh, no, we're going to talk about it now. Okay, so depot here, if you're familiar with Red Hat and Subscription Manager, depot is kind of like Subscription Manager, but not at all. So I honestly don't have a great way of explaining the difference here, but basically depot is your connection into CIQ signed repositories. So if you want to get packages, if you need updates, that kind of thing, you need depot. So maybe I did that on purpose just to prove a point. So what we need to do next as part of our RLC Pro getting started, I didn't want to hide that, in fact. So we could have deployed on Azure, AWS, GCP, or Oracle Cloud. I could have used a bootc image, which I'd like to do at some point. That'd be a lot of fun. I could convert directly from Rocky Linux with just a script. Um, and then there's some defaults. Um, just kind of tells you a little bit of information about the image, um, especially if we went with one of the NVIDIA enabled ones. But now we're down here to deploy post deployment setup, and so we've already got the depot package installed. So what we need to do is come back here to our system and do our authentication. We need to actually, much like doing a subscription manager register or RHCC, I think it is the new tool. I've forgotten off the top of my head, but it's been a while. RHC, no, the utility is called RHC, Red Hat Connect. Um, we need to do the same thing with Depot. So it gives us, so RLC Pro actually gave us, you're not looking at my terminal, RLC, the CIQ portal actually gave us our portal username and our token. And we can actually find that fairly easily here if we go over to, um, so we can get it from the product page itself, or we can actually go to, within our user account, we can actually go to access token, and we can get the same line of code here, username, access token. You can reset your access token, that kind of thing. Again, these accounts and these virtual machines will be deleted at the end of this live stream, so good luck stealing my data. Okay, so what we've done is we've done a login, username, token, pretty straightforward, but we don't have a product enabled. So what we need to do is we need to do an enable command, and we could do a sudo depot list and just see kind of all the different products that are available here. Um, that way we know. That way we know what products we have. Now that I've changed the active repositories, then I definitely want to do a DNF clean all. And then we'll do an update. We'll install some of my favorite packages and we'll clean up anything that's orphaned, which usually on a brand new build you don't have. But then again, 10 years of IT sysadmin. You're not watching my terminal here. My bad. It's just a habit. I usually run that string of commands fairly frequently. Okay, that's still running here. So now we're getting all of these updates, and this should actually revision our system to run uh, to be 9.8. Well, that's running. Let's go check on our document here. So we've got that. We could look at bootc images. We could look at cloud deployment. But yeah, I mean, as far as a getting started guide, it doesn't get much simpler than this. We'll let that run and probably wrap up the stream. Kernel always takes a little while as it does all the things. I mean, it's only like the most important piece of your Linux install. 129 packages, not too shabby. There we go. Yep, and no packages to remove. So let's do a reboot here. It brings us back to Coulson, which I think we were on earlier. It's my jump box. It's mainly used for tmux. we'll, we'll let that reboot a minute here. Anthony says, yeah, the kernel is definitely one of the most important pieces of your system. Okay, we're logged in. So let's jump back in. So yeah, we'll enable the web console. I could have copy pasted or tab complete, but whatever. And then if I do a cat SC release, I do the star here. Fun fact, I do the star just because sometimes I don't remember which system I'm which operating system that I installed. So this could be CentOS, it could be Fedora, it could be RHEL, it could be Rocky, it could be RLC. So just star.release. It really saves you a lot of time in case you forgot what system you're on. So I'm actually still running 9.7. That's interesting. Let's see if we can't take a look before we wrap this up. Let's see, repos. Let's do. So it's hard coded. Those are add-ons like resilient storage, NFV, high availability. Oh, AppStream. There we go. Interesting. Wonder if we don't have 9.80 out just yet. I may have misspoke. So that's something I'm definitely going to have to take a look at. So it doesn't come with Podman or Docker out of the box. Of course, I did do the minimal install, but from here, I'd probably do a DNF install and install Podman, and just go from there. From here, I can definitely start building out anything I wanted. Game server, a web server, just about anything. But probably some of the next steps is I'd probably go to the web console and set up DNF automatic, set up some metrics tracking. That way I can track performance on the system, just some different things like that that I normally do on a basic build. I'm not going to do those things today because, again, my hope is here after the conference next week to come home and set up a sender so that I can use Ansible to automate all these things. And instead of going through and doing all the installation and configuration that I did today, it would just be built out automatically. But yeah, we're installing Podman, but more or less, I mean, that's it. It's very, very easy to get started with RLC products from CIQ. So I kind of read through that getting started guide with my DevRel hat on. For is it easy to read? Is it easy to follow? And then we kind of stepped through it today to see is it easy to actually implement? And even though I've used Portal and even though I've installed RLC a few times, I think it's pretty easy to use. So I think we're going to wrap this stream up here now. if I do like an RLC Pro AI or an Ascender video, it'll probably be a lot longer. But it's just kind of fun to hang out. Sometimes I'll promote it on social ahead of time, and that way folks can come and hang out and we can chat and just basically kind of just get something going on in the chats. And I've had people actually join, like Neil Gampa has joined these sessions a number of times, and has actually helped me troubleshoot my way out of some mistakes that I've made or some things that found confusing. Um, I think we've even fixed a couple of bugs that way. So these are fun. Um, Excuse me. As you can tell, there's no editing because it's all live. But what's more fun than learning product on stream with a whole bunch of people watching you? You never know what'll go wrong. Anyway, I've been Eric, the IT guy. Hendricks. Today was a real short look at how to get started with RLC Pro and what it looks like to use Portal and that kind of thing. So I've got some other products from other companies that I want to give a try. So I'll try and catch those on a live stream as well. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you all on another stream soon. Oh, and one last thing: if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Put some products into the comments that you think I should try. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, The IT Guy Show, hosted by yours truly. Just had a home lab episode with Josh from Keep It Techie. He and I talked about my home lab, my plans for moving forward, the apartment situation for not running a jet engine, aka Dell PowerEdge R720. So definitely check that episode out. I'm not sure who my next guest is going to be just yet. I've got a couple of feelers out, but it's fun. So make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments if there's another product you think